special class in Secret Doctrine. In appreciation of H.P.B. Madame Blavatsky. By Manly P. Hall. Manuscript Series No. 36. Manly P. Hall answers questions. No copyright. Our well-beloved brother. H.P.B. Madame Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. This class is gathered for the study and dissemination of the principles set forth by the Trans-Himalayan Brotherhood in their authorized textbook The Secret Doctrine. Delivered into print by their faithful Chela H.P.B. under the direction of the Exalted Brothers Mahatma K.H., Mahatma M., Mahatma R. Second and Revised Edition. Questions and Answers. Part 1. Concerning H.P.B., Secret Doctrine and Adepts. Part 2. Concerning man and his bodies. Part 3. Concerning the earth and root races. Part 4. Concerning the gods. Part 5. Concerning the universe. Part 6. Concerning natural law. Part 7. Concerning the wheel of life. Part 8. Concerning the sun, moon and planets. Part 9. Concerning a number of things. Occult Catechism as given by H.P.B. What is the eternal absolute? Answer. That. How came cosmos into being? Answer. Through that. How or what will it be when it falls back into pralaya? Answer. In that. Whence all the animate, and suppositionally, inanimate, nature? Answer. From that. What is the substance and essence of which the universe is formed? Answer. That. Into what has it been and will be again and again resolved? Into that. Is that then both the instrumental and material cause of the universe? Answer. What else is it or can it be, than that? Note. That is the name given by esotericists to the eternal root, the ever-existing homogeneity, the baseless base of all things. It is the eternal absolute, existing previous to all things and outlasting all things, the only permanence in the universe. Manly P. Hall. Note. The notes which follow consist of the 100 questions and answers concerning the Secret Doctrine, and its great message simplified for those who have not given. Occult science is a very deep consideration, but who intend at a later time to make the knowledge of those things the goal of their lives. The student may say, "Oh, a book like The Secret Doctrine is so difficult I cannot understand it. Give me something more simple." The eternal cry of man is, "Make it easy." We do not realize that we must grow up to things. It is a great mistake to attempt to bring truth down to ignorance. The result is always misunderstanding and perversion. Man must be brought up to truth. He should eternally aspire toward the highest. He should never seek to drag things spiritual down to his level. The Secret Doctrine is difficult to read. Its long words, its abstract ideas, and its complicated system of thought bewilder the uninitiated. But man must realize that his mind is capable of all things if he will train it. If he will live the occult life as set forth by the masters for their pupils, he will unfold his mind, thus increasing his intelligence to the understanding of those things which before were riddles and enigmas. The God of the wise is a growing God. The universe of the wise is a growing universe. The mind of the wise is an expanding mind, ever reaching further into the unknown, illuminating the darkness of ignorance with the light of logic and reason. All demand that the universe be as they themselves are. The foolish expect the universe to be foolish. The dishonest expect it to be dishonest, and that the gods shall play party politics. The logical demand that the universe be logical, while the reasoning mind demands that the plan of nature be reasonable. The dreamer views life as a dream, and to the lover nature is a romance. The occultist knows that the universe is all things to all men, and that natural homogeneity contains all possibility, and that none are mistaken when they see themselves in nature and their arts and crafts as part of the cosmic plan. Their great mistake is that they do not recognize that nature is all things, not just their own alone. As there are specialists in all walks of life, so also there are specialists in the science of living. Life is scientific. Those who live it haphazardly pay for their thoughtlessness by being subjected to endless misery. Their own unintelligent viewpoints, out of harmony with nature's plan, bring down upon them endless suffering and disaster. The author has sought in the questions and answers that follow to emphasize the ideals given to the world at the close of the last century by a specialist in the science of personal unfoldment. Such an one comes at the end of each century to leaven the loaf of human materiality. These illuminated ones are indeed the salt of the earth. Questions and answers concerning the Secret Doctrine. Part 1. Question 1. Who and what was Madame Blavatsky? Answer. Helena Petrovna Blavatsky was born in Ekaterinoslav, Russia in July 1831. At the age of 17 she married a Russian officer, Nicephor Blavatsky, many years her senior. She lived with him for a few months, and then began a life of wandering which included travel in Mexico, Canada, India and Tibet. Her contact with the great Indian masters and her study with them was presumably between the years of 1848 and 1850. She founded the Theosophical Society with the assistance of Colonel Olcott in 1875. She wrote a number of books, of which The Secret Doctrine and Isis Unveiled are the most important. She also edited a magazine which she called Lucifer, the Light Bearer. She died suddenly in London while working on the third and fourth volumes of The Secret Doctrine. Madame Blavatsky was a pioneer in the Western world, for she brought to Europe and America the first connected account of the Eastern schools of occult philosophy. A woman of commanding personality and scintillating mentality, she demanded and secured respect for ideas far in advance of the age. Her own viewpoint and philosophy she sets forth in Isis Unveiled, while in The Secret Doctrine, she acts as the mouthpiece of a very seclusive group of Eastern adepts, dwelling in the unexplored fastnesses of Greater and Lesser Tibet. She makes no claim to having written The Secret Doctrine, but states that she was merely a pen in the hand of a ready writer. There is no doubt that Madame Blavatsky possessed superphysical powers similar to those of the East Indian adepts. She demonstrated these many times. Most of her work was carried on under bitter opposition, treachery among her own supporters, and continuous poor health, the result of exposure in early life. While she never claimed to be an initiate, there is every reason to suppose that she had been admitted at least into the lower or lesser mysteries, and consequently was privileged to use the title initiate. Very few of her students have been able to follow in her footsteps, the only one known to date being Damodar, who was called by the Trans-Himalayan Brotherhood into Tibet, where he has remained. It is stated that he is being prepared for work in the world at a future time. Question 2. What is the Secret Doctrine? Answer. The secret doctrine is that knowledge concerning the laws behind life, which has always been in the possession of an illuminated few. These few have imparted these sacred truths by word of mouth to those men or women who have prepared themselves to use this knowledge for the service and redemption of the race. The knowledge covers three general subjects, as follows. First, the knowledge of how universes and atoms are created, unfolded, and later disintegrated by the cosmic processes of nature. Second, concerning man, his place in the plan, and how he may later become an intelligent worker with nature for the unfoldment and redemption of himself. Third, how he may learn to control the forces of nature and to become master over the world of phenomenalistic things. The secret processes whereby these things are accomplished have never been revealed to the profane, but are in truth the secret doctrine, which has existed in the world since the beginning of intelligence. This wisdom is God's great gift to man, which deity has revealed through world saviors, adepts and initiates, his chosen sons, according to the needs of races and peoples. The Secret Doctrine, as written by HPB with the permission of her teachers, constitutes a fractional part of this great hidden philosophy. It is all, however, that the world could safely receive at the time. During the middle and latter part of the 20th century, the next messenger appointed by the Great White Brotherhood will continue the word by a further revelation. The book which we know as The Secret Doctrine is written as a commentary to a number of verses from the Secret Book of VIII, which is only translated in respectively cosmogenesis and anthropogenesis, or a study of nature and man. Question 3. Who were the minds that directed HPB in the writing of The Secret Doctrine? Answer. Madame Blavatsky refers to them as the Mahatmas. This is a Sanskrit word meaning great minds. The term is used to cover a group of men who, because of their great sincerity, integrity and devotion, have attained a certain degree of proficiency in the operative science of the secret doctrine. These adepts have reached a place in their intellectual and spiritual unfoldment which the average humanity of our life wave will not attain for many millions of years. The masters or Mahatmas who assisted in the writing of The Secret Doctrine were especially Master M. L. Maria, Master K.H. Kuthumi, and Master R. Rikochi. Several other great adepts lent their services to a lesser degree. The Master M assisted in the deeper occult and scientific problems, the Master K.H. in the literary and philosophic side, while the Master R gave light on the subjects of ritualism and symbology. HPB was merely the amanuensis collecting and arranging the material which they gave her. This accounts in no small measure for the confusion existing in the books in which the subjects do not appear sequentially. The masters, having access to the depositories of world truth and the Akashic record, commonly called the memory of nature, were able to give accurate descriptions concerning things which have not appeared in the physical world for millions of years and also things occurring on the invisible planes of nature about which the average individual knows nothing. Question 4. Is there any organization among the Mahatmas and adepts? Answer. Yes. The Great White Brotherhood is composed of initiates from all parts of the earth, and these form the invisible government of the earth. The Great White Lodge meets every 7 years, and in it each of the schools of occult philosophy are represented. This group is a law-making body deciding with its clearer intelligence the needs of humanity, and seeking to meet these needs in the most efficient manner. During these meetings beings superior to the masters themselves are present. The power of the Adepts over the visible and invisible worlds enables them to invoke the forces of nature to the attainment of any particular end. The Temple of the Great White Lodge, we are told, stands upon an island of permanent rock in the heart of the Gobi Desert of Mongolia or Mongolian Tibet. Question 5. Who are the Trans-Himalayan brothers with whom HPB studied? Answer. They are a group of East Indian adepts, and form one of the schools of the mysteries. These mystery schools are situated on various parts of the earth. There is one in Mexico, one in South America, one in North America, one or more in Europe, and a number in Asia and Africa. The Trans-Himalayan school is probably the highest of the Eastern schools, and as its members are above personality and prejudice, there is an interblending of its adepts with nearly all of the mystery schools. Question 6. What is the actual purpose of the mystery schools? Answer. They are centers established to make possible the study of eternal truth. Their existence remains unknown to the masses, and in this way they protect themselves from the attacks and ridicule of the ignorant. Their fine hand, however, is behind practically every ethical advancement of the age. Sir Francis Bacon, the remodeler of British law, was a member of one of these mystery schools, as was William Shakespeare, the world's greatest dramatist. Plato was an initiate. So was Aristotle. Pythagoras established a school of the mysteries at Crotona. Apollonius of Tyana, sometimes called the Antichrist, was a high adept, having been initiated in the Great Pyramid. Both Paracelsus and Roger Bacon were members of the Order of the Illuminati, representing the mystery schools in the world. Father C.R.C., initiated in Arabia in the mythological city of Damcar by Arabian adepts, was the spirit behind the Order of the Rose Cross in Germany and later in the Masonic Order. These mystery schools are established for the redemption of the race, which being too ignorant to know its own needs is first guided through its childhood by the gods and then instructed by the adepts so that it may learn to take care of itself. Question 7. How do the masters present their knowledge to the world? Answer. Through their disciples. As the Master Jesus taught his disciples in private what they should say to the multitudes, so the great ones promulgate their philosophies through their chelas and pupils. This system is more efficient than the masters appearing themselves, although they do come into the world sometimes. The disciple still has much of the world he is leaving behind in his nature, therefore can more easily mix with the world, thus attaining the desired end though always remaining as inconspicuous as possible. Realizing that each man must choose for himself, the chela never states the source of his information. He merely sows the seed and leaves it to the one addressed to tenderly nurture the plant and finally gather in the harvest according to his own light. Question 8. Why do we never see these great ones in the world? Answer. They are in the world about us every day, but we do not recognize them. We look for shining figures with golden halos. But great souls are not like that. They are the simplest among the simple, the least among the least. They have learned what Jesus meant when he said, "He that would be greatest among you, let him be the servant of all." The true initiate, realizing that he will never be understood by the mass of humanity, never reveals himself except to his own students who know and love him. Question 9. How may we know a great initiate and tell a true adept from a false? Answer. There is an old saying, "By their works shall ye know them." This applies to occult things as to any other line of endeavor. Within the last 50 years, the matter of adepts and masters has been badly overdone. The country has been flooded with swamis, yogis, mahatmas, adepts, masters and initiates. It is impossible that even 1% of those who make this claim could be genuine, for nature works slowly, great minds are not educated en masse. We may say that an adept or an initiate cannot be recognized by any who is not instructed on the same subject. The masters are known to each other, but to no one else as such. We may suspect a person who has unusual powers and is consecrating them to the service of humanity of being one of the brethren or their chela. But this will never be substantiated by their own admission. No adept or initiate will state that he is such except to his own chelas, and these he swears to secrecy. Anyone who admits or declares publicly or brags of the fact that he is an accepted member or has been initiated into any true occult organization is no other than an egotist and a liar. A chela or disciple may state, when ordered to do so by his master, that he is representing the adept or is speaking for him, but he must always admit and make plain that he himself is merely a humble disciple obeying the orders of a greater mind. When you see a person charitable to all, sincere with all, who labors daily for all, humble and contrite in all things, you may ask, is he a great one? But you will never be able to know until you have become as he is. Then the bond of service reveals to each those who are laboring for a common end. Question 10. What is the duty of a chela to his master? Answer. In answering this I will quote the words of HPB herself, who is in turn quoting from one of her masters. As the limbs defend the head and the heart of the body they belong to, so have the disciples to defend the head and the heart of the body they belong to from injury. The duty of the disciple is to fulfill the orders of the master, to uphold his hand, to defend him, to preserve his integrity, and to represent him as honestly as he can by being himself an example of integrity among men. The master assumes the position of father and mother to his disciples. They are his children, consequently are brothers to each other. As their parents have given him birth into the physical world and instructed them in their conduct in the substantial spheres, so their spiritual master has given him birth into the spiritual worlds and is educating them concerning their behavior therein. Treachery to him and lack of consideration for his desires is the greatest sin in occultism. In things of the spirit, ingratitude is the first of the cardinal sins. This is punished by total loss of those gifts which the spirit has hoped to acquire. Questions and answers. Part 2. Concerning man and his bodies. Question 11. What is spirit? Answer. Spirit is the eternal, indestructible permanence concealed within all objective manifestations. It is the germ of perfect homogeneity, which dwells within the center of its own radiations, which radiations are called heterogeneity. Universal spirit is the essence of eternal being. We might say that spiritually it is the root of the verb to be. The spirit in man is an indestructible spark of the great flame. It is separate from, yet always a part of, universal reality. It is the root and seed from which grows the triple branch of consciousness, intelligence, and function. Among the lower forms of nature, this spiritual spark is called the monad. Among those beings with a separately organized mental nature, it assumes the dignity of the ego, I am. Question 12. What is body? Answer. Body is a group of lives less highly individualized than the spirit which manipulates them. These lives have been ensouled by the emanations exuding from the superior spirit, and have been formed into composite heterogeneities which we know as vehicles. These vehicles serve as channels for the manifestation of the subjective ideations of the superior consciousness. Bodies are a series of non-eternal, perishable vehicles composed of the substances radiated outward by consciousness, these radiations being attuned to the several major rates of vibration which we know as planes of nature. The adjustment of these self-born bodies to their correlated cosmic prototype gives function to the individual spirit upon any and all planes whereon these adjustments have been made. Physical life is the function of consciousness in that grade of vibration called physical density as the result of a body composed of physical atoms gathered around certain specified rates of vibration radiating from the ego or monad which we call the spirit. Question 13. What is mind? Answer. Mind is a center of activity existing as a circumscribed area or vortex in that plane of vibratory force which we know as rupa or arupa substance. The basic atom or substance plasma of the mental plane is called the mentoid. All organisms that have created a functioning organism of mentoids are said to have minds. All that have created a vortex or agitated the surface of astral substance or asteroids are said to have feelings. All those having vortices of function in the substance known as etheric granules are capable of generation and reproduction. Those capable of circumscribing and agitating along directional lines the base coilons of physical substance are said to have dense chemical bodies. Question 14. Describe the soul. Answer. Manifestation is an agitation of substance. Agitation creates friction. Friction. Incident. Incident. Experience. Experience. Intelligence. As intelligence, therefore, is the fruitage of a series of non-intelligent or semi-intelligent functions, so the soul is the chemical and atomic fruitage of the actions, reactions, and interactions of the bodies upon themselves, each other, and their environment, and in turn the reaction of their environment upon them. As soul represents the highest perfection of all bodies, it becomes the ultimate homogeneous attenuated vehicle for the manifestation of the enlightened ego. Question 15. What is the relationship existing between man and his bodies? Answer. The most simple comparison is the relationship between a person and the house they live in. Bodies are vehicles of opportunity, existing in order that consciousness may learn and experience sequentially the great lessons of life. Function on any plane of nature or in any environment proves conclusively that that plane or environment offers opportunities of finer adjustment and higher perfection than the individual who is functioning there has yet attained. When the consciousness has completely absorbed and made part of itself the lesson of the environment, he discards as useless and as an impediment the vehicles which he has outgrown. The bodies should be the servants of the consciousness, seeking to assist it in its labor of unfoldment. The consciousness in turn must be considerate of the bodies, for they make possible his growth. Each must assume his responsibilities to the other, the bodies as faithful servants, the spirit is a just and intelligent overlord. Question 16. How are bodies built? Answer. Bodies are built by the grouping of the minute particles of cosmic substance along lines of force and around vortices of cosmic energy. Man in building bodies drops tiny atomic spirals from the egoic globe itself, or, we might say, projects lines of force. These lines of force are adjusted to the three lower worlds, namely, mental, emotional, and substantial. The substantial universe has two divisions, chemical and humidic, each of which has its own vortex of force. These tiny spirals connect the consciousness with these planes of substance, and the impetus to gather the atoms of the respective worlds into functional organisms descends along these lines of force as nerve impulse. Question 17. Is the spirit male or female? Answer. Spirit is androgynous, and its manifested polarity is merely the result of the fact that the same vital forces used for propagation are used for thought and mind building. Therefore, in order to reproduce its kind and in that way offer further opportunities for incoming egos and at the same time build a brain for the objectifying of the mental temperament, it was necessary to divide the life force. As positive and negative are necessary for all creative work, whether spiritual or physical, these currents are sent alternately. In one incarnation, the positive pole is turned downward and the negative upward, and in another the positive pole is turned upward and the negative downward. This process results in what is physically known as sex. Question 18. What are the senses and how acquired? Answer. Man has 5 senses awake and 2 latent. The 5 awakened being hearing, feeling, seeing, smelling and tasting, and the 2 latent being sensitiveness to the astral world and sensitiveness to the impressions of the mental world. All function and sense is the result of the law of necessity, based upon the theory that self-preservation is nature's first law. Each of the races developed a sense. The first race developed the sense of hearing, the second race, the sense of feeling, the third, sight, etc. Question 19. Has man more than one body? Answer. The normal man has 4 bodies, the physical, the vital, the astral, and the mental. It is possible for the trained adept to develop still higher bodies, such as the Buddhic and the Nirvanic. When he has developed the Nirvanic body, he is said to be free from the wheel of birth and death. Question 20. How do these bodies manifest in daily life? Answer. We know that the physical body is the medium of expression for all of the higher vehicles in physical substance. Taking the physical body, therefore, as a base, we know that the vital body vitalizes it, giving the principle of life. The astral body moves it, gives it heat and circulation, and also the senses, while the mental body crowns it with intelligence. The higher bodies, if awake, manifest as various supernormal qualities. Questions and answers. Part 3. Question 21. How old is the Earth? Answer. If the Earth spirit is meant, it is indeed difficult to give an answer. In cosmos, time is measured by immensities of ages and not by years. The Earth as we know it is only one of the bodies assumed by the Earth spirit, and is merely an incarnation of the planetary Lord. Occultism teaches that the physical Earth globe is a little over 350 million years old. This time includes those periods when it passed through the dark mist, the fire mist, the water mist, and the earth periods. It will remain, so records tell us, for another 250 million years at least. During these great periods it passes through numerous changes, and is re-inhabited a number of times. Question 22. How long has the Earth been inhabited by human beings? Answer. There were no real human creatures as we know them on the planet until about 18 million years ago. At approximately that time, Lohitungi, the Fire Lord of Mars, separated the sexes. This is the origin of the story concerning Adam's rib. This was during the Lemurian race, while the Earth was still covered with the water mist. The early half of the Lemurians had no lungs, but gills like fishes. These early Lemurians were not called races, but rather species. The sixth subrace of Lemuria was the first to be composed of truly human creatures. This was the beginning of man. Question 23. Describe the first root race. Answer. The first root race existed while the Earth was still part of the nebula of the Sun. They were loosely organized forms of baggy and senseless shapes. They had very little consciousness, but were connected by magnetic cords with the higher spiritual side of their own natures, and also with guardian intelligences. They were not subject to mortality, but lived forever. They lived in the fire element exuded from the sun. They developed vaguely the sense of hearing. Those are the sons of yoga. At first there was no reproduction, but later reproduction was accomplished by fission. The third eye was active as the pole of the magnetic cord. These are called the Polarian species. Question 24. Describe the second root race. Answer. These are the children of the Golden Father and the White Mother. They were rough globes of a golden yellow color. The pineal gland served as a medium of impression. These creatures had two senses, hearing, which was more highly developed than in the first race, and feeling, slightly developed. The early half of this race multiplied like cells by fission, but the element of growth was introduced. The later species of this race multiplied by swelling and budding somewhat like trees. The last of this race were called the sweat-born, and were the first to show any sexual nature. Like the previous race, they were destroyed collectively by the gods. They still lived in the Sun Nebula, and were connected by the magnetic cord in recapitulation of the moon chain. They had very little consciousness of any kind, were subject to the cosmic urge, and are known as the Hyperborean species. Question 25. Describe the third root race. Answer. At this time the Earth had become differentiated, and the third root race had three senses: hearing, feeling, and seeing. Sight came when the fire mist and the water fogs cleared. This was the first race to see the sun as we know it. The first subspecies of the third race were the sweat-born. Then came the egg-born. The egg-born ran and walked from the time of birth. Slowly through the millions of years that followed they lost this power. Division of the sexes took place in the fourth subrace of Lemuria. The Lemurians had no distinct language, but copied the voice of nature. They were strange hairy creatures little resembling the modern man. During the millions of years since first appearing, they rose to their greatest height and then gave place to later races. Remnants of the third race are still to be found among the black peoples of today. They were called the Lemurians, and occupied a continent in the southwest Pacific. The last two subdivisions of the Lemurians were called the Lanuus, and were the first truly human beings. These two subraces formed the Lemurian race, while the 5 previous divisions were the Lemurian species. It was in the 5th subrace of Lemuria that man became a conscious being and responsible to nature for his thoughts and actions. Question 26. Describe the 4th root race. Answer. The fourth root race, which came into being about 8 million BC, was the red man. He developed the sense of smell, reproduced his species in the same way as our modern race. The American Indian, the ancient Egyptian, and similar people of red color are remnants of this race. His religion and ethics can still be traced amidst the pyramids of Yucatan and the temple builders of Egypt. His continent sank in a number of cataclysms when the perverted people so disobeyed the laws of nature that they were beyond redemption. The destruction of the Atlantean environment liberated the egos to come forward into the fifth root race. The Atlanteans were sun worshippers. They produced a number of great scientists and philosophers, but the 12,000 years of darkness and suppression of truth concealed from the modern world all knowledge of these people. They were called the Atlanteans. As a race, they divided into 7 subdivisions and spread over nearly the entire known Earth. Question 27. Describe the fifth root race. Answer. The fifth root race, of which we are a part, was born in India about 1 million years ago. Parts of it intermarried into the third and fourth root races, and this caused the confusion of tongues. We are members of the fifth subdivision of the Aryan race, namely, the Anglo-Saxon Teutonic. The first sub-race of the fifth root race is still represented by the Aryan Hindus. Question 28. When did man reach the lowest point of his involution into substance? Answer. The most crystallized and materialistic point in the human life wave of the Earth was passed through in the fourth subrace of Atlantis. This group was called the Turani Answer. The human race is now evolving out of density. Question 29. What did the primitive man resemble? Answer. The farther back you trace man, the more he resembles cell life, only on a larger scale. The primitive man appeared as the gradual growth out of a globular body unconscious over its entire area, but containing within itself the seed of future consciousness. Question 30. What will the ultimate man resemble? Answer. The ultimate form of the human race will be globular like a sun or planet, capable of projecting organs at will. It will be a radiant body conscious over its entire surface, having equally distributed the 7 senses over its entire area as feeling is now distributed over the body. Questions and answers. Part 4. Concerning the gods. Question 31. What is the Absolute? Answer. The Absolute is the unchanging eternal all-substance, which in its natural state is invisible, intangible to any perception of God or man. It is all possibility, and yet beingless, uncreated, incapable of creating, and yet the sum total of all creation. All things are made from it, yet remain in it. It is perfect, force in no force, perfect intelligence in no intelligence, perfect consciousness in unconsciousness. It is subject to neither birth, growth or decay, for it is the sum of birth, growth and decay. It is subject to neither birth nor death, for it is the sum of living and dying. It is neither all nor nothing, for it is in truth the sum of all existence plus non-existence multiplied by infinite opportunity and possibility. When you subtract all these things, it remains. Question 32. Who is God? Answer. God is the name created by the uninitiated to cover all of the forces and unmeasured urges which lie behind and a master of the forms and bodies of created things. God is the sum of the unknown, and the hypothetical cause of nature's endless phenomena. The occultist does not consider God as an individual, but rather a series of graded intelligences, being that great chain of enlightened ones that stretches between the limited consciousness of man and the limitless consciousness of the Absolute. Occultists call them the gods. Question 33. Who are the gods? Answer. The universe is filled with beings in various stages of unfoldment. In every case the greater, while expanding their own complex organisms, offer fields for the growth and expression of millions of lesser intelligences. This is true of man also, who offers the opportunity for expression to millions of tiny cells within his own body. The God whom we unconsciously worship is the spirit of our solar system. The planets and ethers are his body. On and in these bodies millions of lesser intelligences, including ourselves, live and move and have their being. This great solar man is seeking perfection the same as we are. But if he would receive anything in nature, he must give something. Therefore, in order that he may grow, he gives the opportunity of growth to millions of lives within his aura. His consciousness is in them. His consciousness expands as the minute particles of himself expand. Therefore we grow for him, while he serves and protects us. We call him God. Question 34. Explain the Trinity. Answer. Nature has three permanent urges. They are to create, to preserve, and to destroy. Destruction in this case means a process of disintegration that reintegration may take place upon a higher level. Three urges may be called states of consciousness. A logos or God when objectifying a universe enters these states of consciousness one after another and meditates upon universal substance. Later he evolves within himself three great intelligences, and these assume the three great states of consciousness. These intelligences are chosen from the fruitage of the various waves of life, which the divine meditator ordains. Question 35. Who is the Divine Mother? Answer. The step between the unmanifested Absolute and the manifested universe is so great that it cannot be crossed without the presence of a central mediator. This being, partaking of the created by its form and body and partaking of the Absolute as it stands half concealed by the veils of eternity, is called the Great Mother, and is practically synonymous with the second creative principle. The Absolute itself is incapable of creating, but by polarizing itself it creates the eternal not self. From this shadow the universe is created. This shadow of reality, this emanation from reality, is called the Great Mother. Question 36. Who is Fohat? Answer. The third logos or aspect of a created intelligence pours from itself 7 creative rays called Dhyan-cho. Answer. The sum of these radioactive forces is Fohat. In the superior worlds he is the spiritual ideal of activity. In the lower worlds he is energy and creative force. Fohat is an endless streamer of energy, one of whose manifestations is electricity, which ties all creation together by the continuity of the vital thread. Question 37. Who are the rulers of the race? Answer. Every race has 2 rulers, and each of the sub-races also has its executives. One of these rulers is the lawmaker, who functions to the mental and intellectual pole. He is called the Manu or lawmaker. The other functions to the heart sentiments and is the great mystic. He is called the Bodhisattva. He works in love, while his companion directs through force. These two are referred to as the Great Brothers. Question 38. What are the Manas? Answer. They are the 14 great intelligences who have charge of the 7 root races of men. There are 7 seed Manas, and 7 root Manas. It is stated that when a race is to be born, one of the Manas takes a physical body, comes into the world, and plants his seed in the race. It afterwards becomes his race. He directs it according to his intelligence, that it may unfold sequentially its latent possibilities. The Manu of our race is called Vivashvata. The Manu differentiates race type, building the bodies of his charges into the likeness of his own type. Question 39. Who are the one-eyed gods? Answer. Under this heading the ancients placed the various natural impulses and cosmic laws. They said that these were one-eyed because they were neither good nor evil, the 2 eyes presupposing polarity. The ancients taught that natural law was no respecter of persons, performing its labors intelligently but without partiality or feeling, therefore they named them one-eyed giants. Question 40. What were the Hebrew Elohim? Answer. They are the personifications of the 7 created breaths or the substance that pours out from the creative Logos as he floats over eternity, impregnating certain areas of eternity with his own rays. These were the Spirit of God that floated over the deep. These creative rays curdled the milk of the divine cow, and the universe was created. Questions and answers. Part 5. Concerning the universe. Question 41. What are the 7 robes? Answer. These are the 7 strata of the celestial onion, the 7 strata of Mount Nebo, and also the 7 layers of the human skin. The term 7 robes is used to cover the 7 emanation bodies of the universal Logos or of a solar Logos. These bodies in the universal Logos become the cosmic planes, and in the solar planes are divided from each other by the rates of vibration of the particles that compose them. Question 42. How is the invisible universe divided one part from another? Answer. As all things in the universe are composed of one thing, the difference lies in the rates of vibration by which this one substance is agitated. Things of a certain rate of vibration function to and are aware of other things vibrating at the same rate as themselves. Vibration lies behind all manifestation in nature as the cause of it and the reason for its individuality. Question 43. How many planes of nature are there? Answer. 49 in the universal system, and 7 in the solar system. Each one of these lesser 7 are capable of division into 7 subplanes each. These planes are as follows, beginning at the highest and working downward: the Mahaparinirvanic, Parinirvanic, Nirvanic, Buddhic, Rupa and Arupa, mental, astral, and physical. The physical is divided into 2 parts, the ethereal and chemical. Question 44. How many planes does man function in now? Answer. The normal individual during life and after death functions in 3 worlds, the physical, astral, and Rupa and Arupa, mental. Rupa means concrete thought, and Arupa, abstract. The physical being divided as stated in answer to question 43 gives him 5 areas of manifestation, the lowest being physical existence and the highest abstract thought. A few great adepts and initiates function in the 4th and 5th worlds, namely, the Buddhic and the Nirvanic. Question 45. What is ether? Answer. Ether is the hypothetical substance forming the arterial and venous systems of the solar system, serving as a medium for universal vitality, bringing vitality to all forms in nature that have built etheric bodies. There are a number of degrees of ether. The finer the ether, the finer the bodies which it serves. The finer the substance of those bodies, the finer the force with which ether will supply them. Question 46. What is hell? Answer. The occultist has no infernal region to which to consign the souls of the damned. His purgatory, located in the lower subdivisions of the astral plane, is a place where he is confronted with his own perversions and mistakes. It is a place of correction, but not of torment, nor does it last forever and ever. The average person of a non-criminal temperament remains about 25 years in Karma Loka, which is the hell of the Secret Doctrine. Children do not remain there at all. Here man suffers for the mistakes he has made, according to the impressions these mistakes have made upon the subtle substance of the astral body. The fruitage of sin and its subsequent suffering is conscience. Question 47. What is nirvana? Answer. Nirvana is the hope of Eastern sages. It is not a place of extinction, as many believe, but rather a point where their greater diligence has privileged them to remain for indefinite periods out of incarnation, because they are so far ahead of evolution that it will be many millions of years in some cases before environments will be formed wherein they can learn anything they do not already know. In some cases, great achievement along spiritual lines permanently liberates consciousness from Earth evolution. Such a one rests in nirvana until the universe is dissolved. He then is connected with a higher scheme of evolution. Question 48. What is heaven? Answer. To the occultist, heaven is merely a certain part of the invisible universe through which he passes during the period between death and rebirth. It differs with his own intelligence, but his Karma Loka is a place where he adjusts the mistakes of his life, so heaven is a place where, liberated from the weight of dense bodies, he builds into his consciousness the fruitage of his earth experiences and rests for a period before descending again into the varying degrees of substance which we call physical. Question 49. Describe briefly the meaning of the great Sanskrit chant, Om Mani Padme Hum. Answer. This is an invocation to the jewel in the heart of the lotus, or the reality concealed behind and in its unfolding bodies. When properly understood, it has a symbolic correlation between its 7 syllables and the 7 creative breaths whereby the universe was unfolded and will ultimately reveal a spiritual jewel. This is said to be the greatest of all mantrams, but should never be used by a lay student, or he greatly endangers his life and his sanity by occult experimentation. Questions and answers. Part 6. Concerning natural law. Question 50. By what is the universe ruled? Answer. Occultists teach that the universe is governed by intelligence, love, and law, and the greatest of these is law. Love and intelligence serve law, ornamenting it and beautifying it, and law serves all things impartially. Millions of intelligences manifest the intricacies of natural law. All things flourish when they abide in law. All things perish when they disregard law or seek to break its eternal power. Question 51. Name the fundamental natural laws. Answer. The most fundamental natural laws are: 1. Evolution. All things grow and unfold. 2. Cause and effect. Every effect is measured by its cause. 3. Reincarnation. Life returns to form again and again in the process of unfoldment. 4. Vibration. Everything in nature is moving. 5. Polarity. All things manifest through positive and negative poles. 6. Equilibrium. Perfection is the state of balance with its victory over the opposites. 7. Compensation. Action is rewarded by its own reactions. 8. Periodicity. For every period of activity there must follow a period of inactivity. Question 52. How can man attain liberation from the wheel of birth and death? Answer. It was the great Gautama Buddha who likened the life of the average individual to a wheel that goes round and round but arrives nowhere. The wise live in cycles, the foolish, in circles. The only way that man can liberate himself from the endless wheel of incidents is by becoming superior to incidents, by attaining mastery over them. By ceasing to be attached to the false, we attain the real. When man has learned well and honestly all the lessons of life, has mastered all the temptations of life, and has gained perfect control over himself, such a one may hope for liberation. There is no release for those who have not lived well, and have not been true to every responsibility of life. Question 53. Which of these laws is the most important? Answer. The law of evolution is the first and fundamental law of nature in every sphere of activity, conscious and unconscious. It rules gods, men and beasts alike. It is the reason for all things, and in itself is the reward for all things. Question 54. How may man assist natural law? Answer. First, by understanding the law, and then by putting it into application. By living according to nature and her plan, he may eliminate nearly all of the inharmony which claims the ignorant. Tomorrow is molded by today. Buddha said, effects follow causes as the wheels of a cart follow the feet of the oxen. Next to evolution in importance is the law of cause and effect. No law is more just than this last, but none seems as unjust when viewed by an individual who is being forced by nature to pay old bills. Question 55. What does the wand of the magician symbolize? Answer. It is the spinal cord surmounted by the brain. The brain is the vehicle of the mind, and gives to those who use it control over the invisible forces of nature, because the mind of the magician has learned to know and obey the laws which govern all forces in nature. Question 56. What are the days and nights of Brahma? Answer. Saint Paul says, I die daily. We know that sleep is a form of death, and that consciousness passes into the land of the shadow. The law of cause and effect demands that rest shall follow exertion, that life shall follow death, that action shall be succeeded by repose, and then that action shall again follow repose. The days and nights of Brahma, which are measured by millions of years, are periods when the great universal beings sleep. At this time the universe, the son of necessity, returns again into the universal one being. It does this periodically, as men sleep periodically. The universe is outbreathed, and then breathed in again. Its periods of action and repose, life and death, are called days and nights of Brahma. Question 57. What is meant by the saying, the three great periods in the life of all things? Answer. As the life of man is divided into three epochs, namely, youth, maturity and age, so nature is divided into three great periods, involution, epigenesis, and ideation or evolution. Man appears from the invisible, remains for a little while, then disappears again into the invisible. His coming, his sojourn here, and his going away are called the three great periods. Whether it be a human life, a cosmic life, a tiny thought form, or a moral temperament, all have their period of growth, maturity and age. Question 58. How can we tell a so-called old soul from a young soul? Answer. As children in the physical world are irresponsible, so young souls in the day of their cosmic life are also irresponsible. Spiritually, age is denoted by depth of thought, depth of understanding, unselfishness, kindliness, and the love of serving others. The old soul is never accumulative. It is going home for eternity, and it realizes that it can take nothing with it but itself. The life of an individual here is an epitome of his cosmic life. You can tell by the way he assumes or shirks responsibility whether he is childish in nature or mature in his spiritual development. Question 59. What is a manvantara? Answer. This is a term given by Eastern sages to the day of man's wandering. It means literally the periods ruled by the Manas. The idea is used to symbolize those periods of the days of Brahma that are suitable for the manifestation of conscious life. They are also used by Eastern adepts as a means of reckoning time. Question 60. What is time? Answer. Time is the mental conception of space. This is a man-made measurement used to measure incidents. The systems which we use are non-existent to all other degrees of intelligence except our own. Periodic activity is used to determine time. In occultism, time is measured by growth. The fact that we say that one is an old soul has nothing to do with years. Age is measured by understanding. This fact is very confusing to students. Questions and answers. Part 7. Concerning the Wheel of Life. Question 61. Has man ever lived on this earth before? Answer. The Secret Doctrine states that everyone living on the earth today has passed through all the races up to the position which he now occupies. The only exception to this is that a few through degeneracy have retrograded from higher to a lower position. Man is part of nature. Nature is ever growing and unfolding, and man grows and unfolds with it. Question 62. Can occultists prove reincarnation to be a fact? Answer. They can prove it to any mind willing honestly to consider man's position in nature. Nature does not work by miracles, but by slow growth. How did man develop his complex organism? Heredity. If this be the case, why are the sons of great men nearly always failures? If you reject reincarnation, where do you hope to attain the perfection and balance which is the goal of all living? When it takes nature 1,000 years to build a great tree, can man build his own nature or save his own soul in 70 years? Reincarnation is the only hope that all will sometime be equal, for there is no visible equality either in nature or among men. Reincarnation proves itself to be true and to be a law because it is a cosmic necessity. Question 63. If reincarnation is true, how many times does the spirit take on a physical earth body? Answer. Man has lived and died hundreds of millions of times in the endless complexity of natural manifestation. The human life wave consists of approximately 800 incarnations. About half of these are in a masculine body and the other half in a feminine body. Question 64. How long does the normal man or woman remain out of incarnation between lives? Answer. A normal member of the Aryan race will remain out for from 1,000 to 1,200 years. About 25 of these years will be spent in the purgatorial regions, and the rest in the higher astral and mental worlds, both ascending and descending. He may decide upon his coming earth body under the direction of those appointed to regulate this work 15 or 25 years and sometimes longer before he takes on the body. Question 65. Is this period for all races and peoples? Answer. No, it differs with the degree of intelligence of the race and the individual. A South African Aborigine a little higher than an animal will remain out of incarnation only from 5 to 25 years, while a great philosopher such as Aristotle or Plato may remain out from 10 to 20,000 years. In the case of the latter, two reasons may be noted. First, the great difficulty in securing proper bodies. Second, their higher evolved mental bodies require longer functioning in the substance of the mental worlds. Question 66. How far does heredity hold good? Answer. Only over those elements composing the physical body and the environment. Egos are drawn into certain families by the law of attraction and its sister force repulsion. Hate is equally powerful with love in the matter of bringing people together. Therefore, egos who need experience in disease go where they will secure diseased bodies, in this way fulfilling the law of karma. This is the real reason why traits and ailments are said to run in families. Question 67. How long does the spirit remain in karma loka? Answer. The length of its sojourn in the purgatorial region depends upon the intensity of its emotions and the strength of these traits which chain it to a rate of vibration, the keynote of which is sensation. Some remain many hundreds of years in hells of their own making. Others remain only a few hours. This latter is true of students and candidates who have been taught by their masters how to transmute evil karma while still alive. The average is about 25 years. Question 68. What happens to a suicide? Answer. In the case of suicide, the laws of nature have been violated. As a result of this, the individual has destroyed a physical body, but is still chained to the physical world. He is forced to remain in a very unhappy condition of both mind and body until that time when he would have naturally died. Question 69. Can a person tell if he was a man or a woman in his last incarnation? Answer. A person's last incarnation is very close, and if he will watch very closely his habits and temperaments and study his atomic structure, he can tell, with the aid of a subconscious element in his own nature, whether he has brought with him masculine or feminine traits. Question 70. Is it possible to return to the physical world without building a body in the normal way? Answer. It is possible under certain conditions, but not for the average individual. When an initiate reaches a certain point, he can temporarily materialize a body, hold it together with mind power, function in it for a limited time, but unless the seed atom is placed in the normal way, the body cannot be maintained for any great length of time. Many of the initiates keep a physical body for use here in a state of suspended animation in some specially prepared place where it is guarded by the illuminated. Questions and Answers. Part 8. Concerning the Sun, Moon and Planets. Question 71. Are the planets inhabited? Answer. All of the planets are fields for the evolution of varying degrees of spiritual beings. Many of these creatures are far higher than we are, others, lower. Some have bodies of fire gas, others like moving stones. Some are gigantic, others smaller than the races of the Earth. Even the Sun itself is inhabited by a very high wave of creatures composed of the substance of the second logos. Question 72. Do these beings have any intercourse with the planet Earth? Answer. The Earth has in its substratas representatives or ambassadors from all the planets in the solar system. Each planet has a predominating metal, which was placed in it while the planet was still a part of the Sun nebula. These form poles along which lines of force pass. By this means interplanetary communication is maintained. All planets are represented by the intelligences on each of the other planets. Question 73. Are the planets alive? Answer. The planets are the organic and inorganic structures which form vehicles or bodies for the planetary logi. Everything in nature is alive. Each of us will someday be a planetary intelligence. Planets will gradually become suns, and thus the endless growth goes on. Question 74. What are moons? Answer. Moons are always one of two things. Either the disintegrating shell of a former body of a planetary spirit or an over-crystallized area of a planet thrown off because of its density and carrying with it stragglers incapable of keeping up with the life wave of the planet. Question 75. What is the nebula theory? Answer. This is the hypothesis that the planets were originally part of the Sun, and were thrown into space by the spinning of the central orb, that the planetary bodies first existed as a fire mist, and became solid after millions of years of cooling and crystallization. This theory, with certain reservations, is accepted by all occult students. Occultists claim, however, that the planets were not thrown off, but are still within the body of the Sun, merely having drawn the coarser substances together in various parts of the solar aura. Question 76. Can man visit other planets? Answer. Not until he has learned to build a subtle body composed of interplanetary substance. The auras of certain planets interpenetrate. A highly developed black magician can visit the planet Mars, because of its polarization. Only very high initiates are capable of receiving information concerning other planets except as thought pictures impressed on their minds by their teachers. Question 77. Have we ever lived on any of the other planets? Answer. Not in any way of which we are conscious. We lived on a moon chain through our animal consciousness, and we will later live on the Jupiter chain, but we can secure very little information concerning this at the present time. We are part of the Earth's evolution. We have been here for millions of years and will remain here for millions of years more. But we will pass through the experiences of the other planets on the various globes of our own chain. Question 78. What is the Sun? Answer. The Sun is the body of the third logos, the Shiva of India, and the Jehovah of the Jews. The Sun is not a source of light, but a reflector of light. There are 3 suns in our solar system. Masonry knows them as the 3 great lights. The Sun is the generating system of the solar man, being that part of the creative logos which formed a universe. Question 79. What is the Milky Way? Answer. The Milky Way is a great mass of cosmic material ready to be individualized into the countless manifestations which we see in nature. It is a ripe substance as distinguished from space, which is an unawakened substance. All things come into being through the Milky Way, which is the natural storehouse of universes. Question 80. Are planets more solid than space? Answer. All created forms are more solid than space, but less dense. In one of the East Indian classics it is stated that the gods made the universe by gouging out holes in density and calling the openings solid. Physical substance, therefore, has fewer particles to the cubic inch than spiritual substance. It may be more solid because the particles are larger, but it is less dense because there is more space between the atoms. Questions and answers. Part 9. Concerning a number of things. Question 81. Name some of the great initiates. Answer. The greatest of the initiates that we know of are Zoroaster, Hermes, Krishna, Jesus; Buddha, Orpheus, Pythagoras, Odin; Moses, Street, Germain, C. R.C. Vyasa, Maham; Confucius, Plato, Aristotle, Paracelsus. Question 82. Name the most important sacred books mentioned in The Secret Doctrine. Answer. The most important books mentioned are the Vedas, the Mahabharata, the Book of Zion, the Bible, the Book of the Dead, the Vishnu Purana, the Book of Pho, the Pistis Sophia. Question 83. Name the masters. Answer. In the symbolic language, the masters and the great ones are named as follows: Master M, Master R, Master KH, Master H, Master J, Master JR, Master S, Master unknown, Master B, Master DR, Master V, Master unknown. Question 84. What are the degrees of initiation? Answer. The degrees, in their order from the lowest upward, are briefly as follows: the student, then the probationer, then the accepted chela, disciple, the first initiation. After this first entrance into the brotherhood, the individual is entitled to the name initiate. Above this point there are many degrees of initiation, 12 in all. After taking 9 of these, the initiate becomes an adept. Above that point they are Buddhas and world saviors. Question 85. What sciences should an occult student study? Answer. It is especially suggested that the student study music, astronomy, geometry, and medicine. These are key sciences in occult things. Question 86. What are the auras? Answer. The name aura is given to the superphysical bodies of man, because being unconfined by physical substances they radiate out in the form or a halo from and around the physical body. The etheric aura is, roughly speaking, the shape of the human body, but streams out like electric fur from the pores of the skin. The astral body is, roughly speaking, egg-shaped, with the larger end downward, and it stands out from 10 inches to 2 feet from the body. In the majority of people the mental aura is merely a hazy globe of light, something like a cloud, around the head and shoulders, but in the more highly developed it becomes an egg-shaped body and more radiant, the larger end being turned upward. The soul aura radiates from the base of the brain in the back as a golden light or halo. In the high initiates these auric bodies are rainbows of colored lights pierced with streamers of force, some extending hundreds of feet. The auric bodies change their shape and color with every thought, feeling and attitude of the consciousness. To those who can read them, they give a perfect key to the life and actions of the person to whom they belong. Question 87. What are thought forms? Answer. Thought forms and astral creations of a similar nature are the result of lines of mental or emotional force, which clothe themselves in the substances of the mental and astral planes and assume forms, shapes and colors which are visible to the eye of the practiced seer. Occasionally these creatures become so powerful that they interfere with the consciousness or the conscious functioning of the individual who created them. They often destroy him by attaching themselves to his vital centers. Sometimes these thought forms are temporarily used by decarnate human beings. Question 88. What is black magic and why is it dangerous? Answer. Black magic is the use of occult information or power for the aggrandizement of self or the injury of another. As all forces react upon the person who sends them forth, to use black magic is to doom oneself, for the black birds will all return home to roost. In future incarnations, the black magician pays for his interference with natural law by appearing in a body mentally, spiritually, or physically deformed. Question 89. Who inhabits the invisible worlds? Answer. The ethereal worlds are inhabited by elementals consisting entirely of ether and have no consciousness separate from their natural substance. The astral and the mental worlds are inhabited by the so-called dead and also by groups of creatures who never appear in the physical world at all. These are the devas of East Indian philosophy and the archangels of Christian law. The black and the white masters and their pupils are also met upon the astral world, and the race spirits, group spirits of the animals, and intelligences from other planets and realms. Question 90. Is prayer answered? Answer. When accompanied by the proper spiritual attitude, prayer is a magic invocation. It is drawn to those who pray for intelligence from the superphysical worlds who assist man according to his needs, if he makes known his needs in the proper way. Prayer is a modern adaptation of the ancient incantations and invocations used in the temple mysteries. Question 91. What must the average individual do in order to come in contact with the masters and their work? Answer. First, he must reach a condition mentally and spiritually that is no longer satisfied to remain in ignorance, but desires to know the reason for life and its mysteries. He must realize that to know the masters, he must make himself like them. They have consecrated their knowledge to the service of humanity, and in order to secure that knowledge, all candidates must consecrate their lives to the intelligent application of the things they gain. 5 steps are outlined for the use of the lay student. Question 92. What is the first step? Answer. The first step is to purify as carefully as possible the physical body so that it may become a noble temple worthy of receiving the light that the student hopes to receive. If he does not purify his body, the higher rates of vibration drawn to him by his studies will destroy him. Question 93. What is the second step? Answer. The second step is to secure control of all the thoughts and feelings that the animal nature shall not interfere with the higher man in his growth. As the Eastern sages have said, only eyes incapable of tears can see the reality. While there is love or hate, sense of possession or sense of loss, true discernment is impossible. Question 94. What is the third step? Answer. The third step is to love nothing but truth. When man loves truth as he loves gold, when it is the aim of all his strivings, then he is a true aspirant. He must not love truth for what it will bring him or the power it will give him. He must love it for its own sake. A person who has attained this consciousness is well on the road to attainment. Question 95. What is the fourth step? Answer. The fourth step is to learn obedience, for great is the master who can obey himself, who can obey his master, and can unquestionably do those things which he is instructed to do. Obedience is to do no more than is asked, and also to do no less. The master is the servant of all. He is the conscious servant of nature. The older he is spiritually, the fewer orders he gives, and the more he obeys. One of nature's grandest products is a mind that can gracefully, cheerfully and efficiently carry out the orders of another. Question 96. What is the fifth step? Answer. The fifth step is the control of the mind that it shall think continually in the elements of reality, that it shall have perfect discrimination between the false and the true, that it shall choose always the eternal over the temporal things, that it shall distinguish always perfect good, and serve this intelligently and eternally, that it shall be kind unto all things, having neither friends nor enemies, kith nor kin, recognizing above all things the fundamental unity of life. Question 97. What is the meaning of transmutation as used by occultists? Answer. Transmutation is that chemical change which takes place in organisms when the integral parts are vitalized by higher rates of vibration. The alchemist taught that to be wise, man must learn to transmute base metals into gold. This meant that he must acquire the knowledge of how to transmute his lower nature and his lower bodies into vehicles fine enough to respond to the subtle influences of his spiritual nature. He must transmute all of his forces so that they shall serve good instead of evil. Question 98. What are the lotus blossoms? Answer. The lotus blossoms are centers of force located along the spinal column and in the brain of man. The opening of these lotus blossoms is the result of awakening the goddess Kundalini from her sleep in the solar plexus. Then rising along the spinal canal on her pilgrimage to the brain to open the eye of Dhamma, she animates these centers which open and become great whirling vortices of force, which the Hindus called lotus blossoms, and the early Jews symbolized as the budding of Aaron's rod. Question 99. What is the eye of Dhamma? Answer. It is the latent vehicle of sight and cognition in the brain which we know as the pineal gland. When agitated by the effluvia radiated by the pituitary body, it is capable of becoming sensitive to vibrations of the mental and spiritual worlds. It is called the eye of the gods, and is also referred to as the third eye. Question 100. What is the Great Illumination? Answer. This depends largely upon the position occupied by the student or rather ego in evolution. The first contact of a student with the spiritual worlds as personified by his master may be called the Great Illumination. The unfolding of the latent organs of sight which have long been asleep and have thus divided him from the worlds from whence he came show him his true place in the cosmic plan. This revelation as to the reason for his being and the work for which he was ordained is called the Great Illumination.